G'day and welcome to Capital Inc., a program talking Canberra news and views. Thanks for watching, thanks for sharing. My name's Chris Kimball. We're here at Newcastle Studios in Braddon with Kristen Henry from Mix 106.3 Breakfast.
Hello.
Emma MacDonald, senior reporter at the Canberra Times. Ginger Gorman, social affairs commentator. And Harry Frost from Win TV. Welcome, Harry.
Thank you.
Well, you couldn't have missed it this week. The first of the 1,000 Mr Fluffy blocks went under the hammer, with sales ranging from 12 to 68% above their unimproved land value. The blocks are primarily in established suburbs, and many of the buyers, probably the majority of the buyers, are already existing homeowners. Some of the Mr Fluffy affected homeowners say they feel betrayed by the government in that they've been forced to move out of their family homes. The land sales have been likened to pots of gold, with the government set to divide the majority of the blocks. Emma MacDonald, you've led much of the reporting on this. You've met so many people involved. Where is the issue now? Where are the issues and where are the tension points?
Well, I can understand exactly why the Mr Fluffy owners who were just going along living their life, raising their kids in the suburbs that they had chosen to live in, feel irate that these land values are so far above what they paid, but through no fault of their own, they may not be able to buy back their block of land and build another house. It is enough that they have suffered the trauma of finding out that they have been exposed potentially to a class 1 carcinogen, and for the vast majority their children have been exposed. They have to live with that for the rest of their lives. Add to that they have to move out of their homes, that their homes are demolished, and then the fact that they would actually face financial pressure on top of that. I just think it's devastating, and I understand that the ACT government has to pay for it because it was left completely in the lurch by the Commonwealth. But, you know, I just think it's a tragedy, and these people have been thoroughly traumatised and now suffer, you know, huge financial setbacks that many of them may never recover from.
And this, I really feel, having looked at some of the documents as you have, I mean, you've looked at a lot more than me, but having seen documents from 40 years ago where the Commonwealth government acknowledged the risk and somehow it was covered up for 40 years through successive governments, the question is really, why aren't we getting a Royal Commission? If we've got hundreds of people who've been exposed to this carcinogen, and
hundreds, thousands, 30,000, an estimated 30,000 people in Canberra will have had something to do with a Mr Fluffy home.
And it's really the children that concerns me. Like the mother that I interviewed had renovated the house, the 2 kids had been exposed. Perhaps 30, 40 years down the track, they may face getting cancer. We don't know really, but you know, you've got to ask questions about why. Why was this allowed to happen? And I think it comes down to money.
I feel for the ACT government that the federal government has just absolutely washed their hands of this. At least the ACT government are stepping up to the plate. Like, once these homes have been deemed Mr Fluffy homes, I wouldn't be buying one. I would be driving as far away from it as possible.
But they never would have done that without Emma's reporting. Like, honestly, that never would have been exposed.
No, I mean, break it.
She kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and then everybody else followed her, but they wouldn't have stepped up unless they had to.
My question is, and I don't even know whether you can answer this, but have we seen the end of it? Will there be more Mr Fluffy homes identified?
There's still finding homes with loose fill asbestos in the walls. Even a few months ago in Western Creek, they were finding it in the walls of homes. But I have to say, I do agree with you. I think the ACT government perhaps is seeing some pressure from elsewhere. At the end of the day, we're hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. They need to pay that debt somehow. We're asking a lot, the ACT, from the federal government. We've got a light rail project to pay for. We've got a health system we want more funding for as well. So I think there's perhaps some pressure coming from higher up for them to push these sales forward, and that's unfortunately perhaps coming at the expense of these homeowners. But we also need to be compassionate.
Not all homeowners want to. Many have bought a new house and moved on, and they're the ones, you know, the sooner they move on, the sooner they get over it. But there's a small core, I reckon there'd be like between 100 and 200 households that do not want to move.
They want it's their home.
Yeah, and they should not be disadvantaged. They shouldn't have to pay a cent more than they put into their own home. So I really object to the fact that the Commonwealth has left the ACT on its own. But I also think these people, you know, I'm absolutely gobsmacked that There's been no legal recourse, statutes of limitations, there's been no board of inquiry, there's no Royal Commission.
Again, the ACT government has to make a really tough call. We've got a finite amount of money. What do we use that for? Do we use that for an inquiry into why it happened? Or do we use it to clean it up and to pay these people back and make sure that they're properly compensated?
No, that's the thing, they're not properly compensated. As in the Commonwealth. Well, thank you, Commonwealth Government, for giving us a $1 billion loan that we have to pay interest on. That's the most disgusting part of it all.
I mean, I think it's interesting that this happened, they knew the risks before self-government. So in fact, the Commonwealth should be culpable, and yet they're loaning us money.
Yeah, I mean, that legal advice in that whole situation must have been absolutely rock solid in terms of, because when you look at it on the surface, it certainly appears like the Commonwealth's absolutely washed its hand of it and walked away with no financial burden.
Yeah, we're a tiny
we're a little jurisdiction.
Yeah. I think it's only Katie Gallagher's just common decency that she agreed to do this. I think, if it wasn't for Katie, I don't know that it would have gotten through Andrew Barr. She took on an enormous financial burden because she knew it was the right thing to do. But even still, there are some people that just want a house on their land and they're going to be priced out of the market, and it's just adding insult to so much injury.
And even people who say they moved out of the home, they took the money from the government and they wanted to live in the same suburb, which I understand. Yeah. Like the lady I spoke to, she's paid $100,000 more than what she was compensated. So she's a young mum, she's got 2 kids, she's a single mum. That's a lot of money. To be, as you say, just walking along in your everyday life, you think you own the home, and then all of a sudden you're out of pocket having to buy another home, and you can't afford really to live in the same suburb. I mean, it's very hard to find justice in all of this, isn't it? And especially when you're hearing those stories.
And it's a motive, it's people's homes,
and that's
tough.
the Australian
Well, the government
thing,
calls them houses. The government won't even use the term homes, but I've always called them homes. People's homes, people's lives, and and so many scars that we're going to be carrying this for a long, long time.
Well, the Mr. Fluffy legacy continues. The land sales and the demolitions will continue. Please tell us what you think about the issue. Should the government have done more? Has the Commonwealth got off lightly? It's an issue that is really important to Canberra people. Let us know what you think.